Hi, I'm Scott, and in this video, I'm going to talk about why I don't think T-framework is maybe the best argument on the January-February LD space topic. I want to start with the disclaimer that just because I'm making this video saying why I think T-framework is a terrible argument on this topic does not mean that I won't vote for the T-framework argument. And in fact, today I judged a debate round where I voted on T-framework on this topic. So don't take this as bias, just some things I've been thinking about to contemplate why I personally just don't think that this is a good topic, and probably in my time in debate, one of the worst topics for T-framework that I can imagine. So the first thing is that a lot of what I am about to say is encapsulated by the thought that there's sort of like different types of resolutions. There can be resolutions of value, resolutions of policy, things like that. And this isn't exclusive to debate. This is also to like how like resolutions in and of themselves are determined. So if you would take like a communication studies class that talks about the basics to public speaking, even, you would get the policy versus value discussion. And I just think that the way that this topic is specifically worded, that this is a value resolution because there's no actor that is like ruling that the topic is unjust, or that or is saying that like a specific act is unjust. It's more of a value statement, and that sort of encapsulates a lot of the arguments that I'm about to make as to why I think that T-framework is just not good. And a lot of that comes back to, I think that this resolution is a value question, and that T-framework just doesn't work with this at a conceptual level and at a definitional level. I think a lot of what I'm going to say is going to tie into a previous video that I did on why I think LARP AFs are extra topical on this resolution. So I think after you watch this video, that one would also be a good one to watch, because it explains a lot of the core concepts for why I think that this is true, and I'll make sure to link that below. So the first thing, and kind of proving what I'm saying, is the number one thing that people normally do for T-framework debates. First, let's stop. T-framework is an argument that says you must follow the resolution, you must follow the topic, and is normally read against critical teams or performance teams or whatever label you want to give people who don't follow the explicit definitional interpretation of the resolution. This argument comes from policy debate, where the topics, at least in my experience in policy debate for 15 years, always start with an actor that says the United States federal government should, and people define the United States federal government and should, and say that that means that the affirmative team must definitionally defend that. I don't think this topic has that. There's no portion of that that you can see, and I think that this is proven by the fact that a lot of framework shells in the NC on this topic are just defining resolved and saying that resolved means a legislative action. They're reading like this really old piece of 64 words and phrases evidence and are saying like it's legislative. A couple of things. I think that this means that every topic ever is legislative, so I don't get when or where you would ever kind of switch sides. I also think that it's really strange given our specific topic, because if the appropriation of private entities of outer space is unjust, wouldn't that be a non-governmental thing done by private entities? So I don't get how that would be legislative action. And I think that saying that legislative is only private, saying that the topic has to be legislation probably discludes or doesn't include affirmatives that should be topical on this topic, that are like the private industries should all agree to a bunch of norms that decrease the appropriation of space, which is definitely, given this wording, a topical AF, but doesn't include a legislative action by a government, which I think, would mean that their sort of view on framework isn't true, because that AF should be topical, but if we view it through their lens, it's not. I also see some debates where people are defining other words, like they're defining like private entities as non-state actors. I think this is really funny because people are saying you have to do legislative action by a government, and they're saying private entities are non-state actors. I don't really know how those two things are like mutually exclusive in the same environment with one another. I also think that there's other debates where people are defining words like outer space or appropriation. I don't understand how that would exclude these types of affirmatives. I think that that non-institutional AFs would still do things. I think that you could also say that this takes into the view that property can only be regulated by the government, and that ownership has to have the government as an entity that is seen, that is like the arbiter of these things. I don't think this is true, because like I can take your property, I can buy property from you, and the government doesn't have to be involved in that ownership appropriation at all whatsoever. So I think that this might prove that private actors alone would work. I also just think like with the way that a value-based topic would work, that this just wouldn't be exclusive with that view of debate. Some arguments that T-framework teams make as like their standards that I think also just don't make sense on this topic. I think a lot of teams normally read like procedural versus structural fairness arguments and say that like critique or non-topical AFs or performance AFs like do post facto topic adjustment where they like recontextualize the resolution. I don't really understand how defending a LARP AF isn't also this, like, isn't adding states ought to ban, like, an instance of recontextualizing the resolution. Doesn't this prove that LARP AFs are extra T as much as K AFs would be? So then wouldn't your state's LARP's AF also justify all of the same type of K AFs given your view of the topic? If you're interested in this, I encourage you, check out the video I did on why LARP AFs are extra T, but I think given the reason that this topic is justified for doing those things is probably also the justification for why T framework is just like not a thing on this topic. A lot of people also make an argument that's like, hey, structural problems with this mean people will, like, undersourced teams will not be able to answer arguments. I think that like personally in LD debate, I think that there's really good defensive claims against this. That's just like the LD view of LARP compounded with extra T on this topic, that you can just like defend minute actions by specific things. So like for instance, on this topic, you could have like, Greece bans some company that I've never heard of before. That would be an AF that's T that same undersourced team would have to answer. I think that there's just like so many AFs that underneath the T framework view of the world that would also be T, that I'm just not really sure how a lot of these teams win a bright line to this being like an internal link to what triggers these like lack of clash arguments. I think that the switch side debate portion of the standards is also interesting. I think this is also the extra T portion where like you really never switch sides because you always want a LARP, and like this is a great instance because a lot of LARP teams are inserting things into the topic in order to not have these value debates and not switch sides. I also think that there's a good argument, this is like the whole framework debate and all that type of stuff, but like if you read a LARP AF and you enforce that people must LARP, when like how do you ever switch sides? But that's a whole extra debate. But especially on a resolution where the imposition of LARP AFs may or may not be extra T. I don't get how the same thing for switching sides justified by LARP would not be the same thing that would be justified by, like, quote unquote, not topical AFs on this topic. I think the last part of this is like the like answering the like TVA portion of the framework debate. And I think that the extra T portion of this, of the way that LARPAFs are at least viewing this topic, or most of them that I've seen are viewing the topic, just like proves a we meet argument, because your non-topical thing, if it talks about the topic in some way, is probably going to be the same way topical that a LARP-AF is, just given the wording of how this topic is worded. I also think that any type of like truth testing argument that T framework teams would make, that this might disprove it, because like, how do we truth test something that requires us to insert something? Inserting something extra to prove the resolution true, in my opinion, probably doesn't affirm truth testing, but I'm definitely not the right judge for these truth testing debates. I just don't really get how this wouldn't resolve a lot of the internal links to like research and things like that T framework teams make, because like underneath how LARP AFs are viewed, you should be able, with AFs that on other resolutions would be not topical or wouldn't win we meet arguments against T framework, I think that you can just use this as a reasonability argument for your we meet argument, that a reasonability argument would no longer be arbitrary, because the way in which LARP AFs are justified may also be arbitrary, which means that we should be held to the same standard that they are in the debate, which means there's no real grounds for this in the debate. So this is a brief little why I, have been thinking about maybe T framework isn't the best argument on the topic. You're more than welcome to disagree, have your own opinions. I don't even know if I sort of like agree with the things I said, just some things that I've been thinking about and wanted to share. Hopefully you enjoyed this, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.